This Roflow repair video explains how to repair the cylinder bore and demonstrates the process of resetting the rotor bottom clearance on a Roflow low-pressure compressor. An important aspect of the rotary vane compression cycle is the distance between the bottom of the rotor and the bottom of the cylinder. This distance is called the rotor bottom clearance. In the compressor assembly, the rotor is supported by the cylinder heads. The location of the cylinder head sets the rotor alignment and bottom clearance. Dowel pins are used between the cylinder and cylinder heads to hold this position and alignment. During the operational life of the compressor, the cylinder bore will wear, increasing the bottom clearance. Improper bottom clearance can result in extremely poor performance or catastrophic failure. The cylinder is repaired by remachining the bore and increasing its diameter. With the new larger bore diameter, the cylinder head and dowel pin position must be adjusted to set the correct bottom clearance. The first step of this process is to plug the existing dowel pin holes in both the cylinder and cylinder heads so that the recommended 3/8" diameter dowel pins can be used. The following steps need to be done at all 4 dowel pin locations on the cylinder. Start by pulling the dowel pin. Then drill out the existing dowel pin hole 1 1/4 inch deep using a 7/8" drill. Use a 1" 8 bottom tap to tap the hole 1 1/8 inch deep. Add a 1 3/16 inch counterbore to the hole to a depth of 1/8 inch. You are now ready to insert the threaded plug. Ductile iron plugs like this one are available from Roflow compressors or can be made in your machine shop. Before inserting the plug, apply high-strength, high-temperature Loctite 272 to the plug's threads. Then turn the plug into position and tighten using a pipe wrench. The shoulder of the plug should fit snugly into the counterbore. After the Loctite has cured for approximately 24 hours, machine the plug head so that it is within 0.02 of an inch from the surface. It is important that you do not reduce the bore length by machining the cylinder end faces. A similar process is now performed on the machined side of the heads, again at all 4 dowel pin locations. The first step is to again drill out the existing dowel pin hole using a 7/8 inch drill, this time to a depth of 1 inch from the gasket groove face. Using a 1" 8 tap, tap the newly drilled hole to a depth of 3/4 of an inch from the gasket groove face. Add a 1 3/16 inch counterbore to the hole to a depth of 1/8 inch. We are now ready to insert the plugs into the heads. Again, apply high-strength, high-temperature Loctite 272 to the plug threads. Turn the plug into position and tighten using a pipe wrench. After the Loctite has cured for approximately 24 hours, machine the plug head so that it is within 0.02 of an inch from the surface. Do not increase the gasket groove depth by machining the entire face. The heads are now ready for the new dowel pin holes. Thread a drill jig into the jacking bolt hole of the head and drill a 23/64 inch diameter pilot hole through the newly positioned plug. After the 4 pilot holes are drilled in the heads, the rotor alignment procedure can begin. Be sure the shaft orientation to the inlet and discharge flanges is the same as the original assembly. Start by placing precision positioning pins on each side of both ends of the rotor. Adjust the rotor position until the top of all 4 positioning pins are within 0.02 of an inch of each other. Once in position, secure the rotor into place on both ends. It is good practice to recheck the positioning pin heights after securing the rotor. With the rotor secured, the cylinder heads can be installed for drilling the dowel pin holes. Before putting the nuts on the studs, the cylinder heads need to be positioned so that the studs are in the center of the stud holes. Rotate the cylinder head counterclockwise until it stops against the studs. Draw a line starting on the cylinder and ending on the cylinder head. Then, rotate the cylinder head clockwise until it stops against the studs and draw another line on the cylinder in line with the line on the cylinder head. Then rotate the cylinder head so that the line on the cylinder head is in the center of the two lines on the cylinder. With the head in this position, place 4 nuts on the studs to secure the head in this location. Perform these same steps on the other end of the cylinder. Using the pilot hole previously drilled in the cylinder head as a guide, the dowel pin hole can now be drilled into the cylinder. Thread a drill jig into the jacking bolt hole of the head on the inlet side of the compressor. Using the jig in the pilot hole, drill a 23/64 inch diameter dowel pin hole into the cylinder 3/4 of an inch deep. Perform this step on the other end of the compressor, again on the inlet side of the compressor. Both of these holes will then need to be reamed using a 3/8 inch reamer. The 3/8 inch diameter dowel pin should be snug in this reamed hole. Next, remove the heads in order to access the bolts securing the rotor and positioning pins. Clear the metal shavings produced from the drilling process. Insert the dowel pins into the 2 reamed holes. Reinstall the heads back onto the studs. Use a jacking device for each cylinder head to lift the rotor off the bottom of the cylinder and set the bottom clearance. The jacking device must be capable of fine adjustment. The model-specific bottom clearance range can be found in the OEM manual. Place a dial indicator on the top of each end of the shaft to measure rotor movement. Using the jacking device, jack each head in order to lift the rotor off the bottom of the cylinder. The dowel pins that are in place on the inlet side now become the pivot point for the cylinder head as they're rotated upwards. The dial indicator is used strictly as a reference. Feeler gauges must be used to measure the actual bottom clearance. When the bottom clearance is set, 4 nuts can be tightened onto the studs on each end to hold the heads in place for drilling. Before drilling, check the bottom clearance of the rotor again with feeler gauges to ensure nothing has shifted while tightening. The same procedure can now be used to drill and ream the holes on the outlet side of the compressor. Remove the head to install the dowel pins and clear away the filings created from drilling. The bottom clearance is now set to the design specification, allowing your compressor to achieve its optimum performance. You can now complete the rest of the assembly, including rotor blade, seal ring, and gasket installation, followed by shimming the bearings to set the end clearance and net float. This concludes the RowFlow training video. Please check out the other training videos on the RowFlow website.